I'm Scott Grove, and I've got a really interesting project I'm just finishing up. It's a series of railings for a stairway, and we have a 2-section piece here and a 3-section piece here, all packaged up, ready to go. But what makes this project really interesting is that they're not only curved, but round and tapered. So the through mortise was quite a challenge. So I'm going to show you how I did that. The first challenge is to draw a nice, large, even arc or radius. And that can be a challenge, quite frankly. The radius is, I don't know, certainly way too large for a string and a center point and drawing with a string. And of course, string also stretches, so if you're going to do that method, you'd want to do it with wire or some material that doesn't stretch. But I still need to draw it, so I can use just a flexible stick. And the problem here is if I put 2 points, straighten this out, this stick actually is not bending consistently. It's not a consistent radius. I don't know if you can tell here, but it's actually flat and only really bends up at this area. And you can try moving this around, but that's just not a very accurate way of doing it. Pieces, in this case, I got 84 inches. So I've cut 2 84-inch boards of just 1/2-inch masonite, and I'm going to set them down and crisscross at the very top. And screw these together. So now what this does is I can put my pencil here, and if I slide this down, this pencil is going to draw a perfect arc as long as I keep my boards pressed tightly against these 2 points. So let me show you how that works here. Towards the end it gets a little, an assistant would be helpful. Perfect. So you can see the difference here between the 2 lines. This was my stick, and that's actually the flat I was talking about, where here I've got a consistent arch all the way around. So that's an easy way of making large arches or radius.
Now I cut the template out using a bandsaw, which I forgot to videotape, but I think you understand that step. And smooth the curve using a belt sander or an edge sander. I then attach the original curved piece of MDF to another layer of 3/4-inch MDF and cut that on a bandsaw, leaving just a little overhang, which I can now flush with a router. Using a pattern bit, which has a bearing on the top, I can easily guide the bearing on the original curve, and that flushes the overhang. Now I use the belt sander just to smooth any little chatter left over by the router bit, being sure I keep a nice square edge. This is now my form that I'm going to glue my laminations to, and to prevent them from sticking to my form, I'm using cellophane tape just to sort of prevent the glue from soaking into the chipboard or the MDF here. I then wanted to make sure that my lamination strips stay parallel to the form, so I'm adding blocks to one side. I can use these blocks to clamp all my laminations to, keeping them all aligned. I dry fit my laminations to the form so I can cut them to the proper length. And now add some wax just for double insurance to make sure that I'm not gluing my laminations to my form. It's always a good insurance. Since I want my laminations to stay true to the form, I use a plastic resin glue. It's a urea formaldehyde glue, which is the brand I use is Unibond 800. I use an electric drill to mix that up nice and creamy and brush that on both surfaces. It has a nice open time and gives me a rigid glue line to minimize springback. Unibond has a nice open time, about 30 minutes at 70 degrees. So you have plenty of time to get it on the form and get all clamped down nice and tight. But you don't want to dilly-dally here. Get your clamps on as fast as you can and get those seams nice and tight. And be sure to clean any squeeze out. This will save you a lot of aggravation and in further steps.
So there you go. So here's a bent lamination that I used the plastic resin glue in. And as you can see here, the plastic resin glue gets rock hard like glass. And the point there is you want to use the plastic resin glue over PVA glue because PVA glue is more flexible and there'll be more spring back. So that's how far the wood wants to spring back to its original location. And the glue is really what's keeping it rigid. And you can see here, there's just a little spring back. Oh, it might be a 1/4 inch, 1/8 inch on either end. I know for me that's not important for the particular installation I'm doing, so I'm not really concerned about it. If I was, I would use thinner pieces. Here, again, I've used 1/4 inch pieces, so I didn't have that many pieces to glue up.
And then scrape off any extra squeeze out because the plastic resin glue gets rock hard and really abuses your planer blades at the next step.
On a side note, it's also a good idea to wax your bars on your clamps. So if there's any glue that spills off, that easily scrapes off with a scraper or a knife or something. So that's also a good idea too. Sometimes you little on the handles because your glue seepage gets on your gloves and gets transferred to the handles. So trying to keep your tools clean at all times is always a good idea. Wax will take care of that.
I now join one face of the railing to even up all my laminations and give me a nice straight and flat reference edge. With one flat side, I can now plane the other side down parallel. Now I can see that I've got nice tight laminations with no gaps. It's good glue up. Now I'm ready to lay it out on the floor, figure out where my through mortises are going to be. It's important to have good reference lines, and I know where my start and stop points are going to be. I now want to make my laminations tapered. So I simply do this by using the edge of my finger and pull my marker closer to the edge. Just run it all the way down with a consistent motion and taper the entire length of the lamination. From here, I just simply cut it out on the bandsaw as close to the line with a nice even cut. Now I just repeat this technique on the other axis of the railing and taper the other face. Now I'm ready to cut this on the bandsaw, and it's important to keep the railing in contact with the bed right at the blade. I now join the bandsawed edge, keeping that nice and flat, and on the outside radius I hit that on my edge sander. It's important to have a nice smooth surface. Here you can see I have a nice smooth, straight, tapered railing, ready for the rounding process. To help me in the rounding process, I use a 3/4 inch round over bit on my router table. This just helps me remove the corners of these railings for the hand shaping process. I then use a mini grinder with 60 grit paper on it to help blend in these curves and start working the transition to smooth everything out. And for the final shaping and smoothing, I use a spoke shave, working the entire length at once, rounding and tapering all at the same time. It's important that the curves and transitions are consistent and smooth. This step goes pretty quick. The outside curves, I actually just use a block plane. Here you can see I have a nice round, tapered, and evenly curved railing. It's beautiful. With my mini sander, I can round over the end and finish that up with a random orbital sander. Get a nice full nose, soft end. And now sand the entire railing with the random orbital sander to take out any facets and transitions, smoothing the entire piece so it's nice and smooth. And my last step is a flap sander, which smooths the entire railing out.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed that last segment. If you'd like to see more, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, ImagineGrove. If you want to know more information about me, books that I've written and recommend, links to other sites, please go to ImagineGrove.com. Thanks again for watching. Remember to cross the line and then move it. Thanks.